Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning or this afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. Today's webinar is 3 new integrations in 30 minutes. I don't know who put the 30-minute time limit on us. It's going to be very hard to get through Facebook, Typeform, and Twilio in 30 minutes, but we're going to try today. And I'm joined by Elle Shuttleworth over in San Francisco. I'm coming to you out of our Sydney office this morning, and it is also, I think, morning over there. Elle, welcome.
It is, thank you. It's a chilly morning in San Francisco. I imagine you have some nicer weather than we do.
Yeah, I think it's like the polar opposite right now, which is great. So we're here today to talk you through the 3 new shapes, the Facebook lead shape, Facebook custom audiences we'll be covering this morning, also having a look at Typeform, and then a little bit later on we'll be showing you some of the new Twilio shapes and how you can use SMS more intelligently to have conversations with customers and capture more leads. We do want to make this interactive today, so if you want to ask questions, you can do that through the GoToWebinar section. This image is very outdated. I think it's from the 90s, but it still looks similar. So you can go in there, type in your question, and Elle's going to be checking them, and we have some people reading them. So we're going to try and answer them. If we can't answer everything today and we're out of time, what we'll do is we'll reply to you directly during the webinar, or we'll come back to you via email. So thanks for joining us this morning. We're really excited. You may have noticed, if you're an existing Autopilot customer, a number of different shapes launching. This is just the beginning of a number of shapes that we're going to launch, and we'll try and keep covering them on interactive webinars like this that you can join and attend. So let's kick it off with Facebook. So we have 2 new Facebook shapes that we're going to go into today, or 2 integrations with Facebook. The first is Facebook lead ads, and there's 2 shapes that you'll see in Autopilot. The first is the trigger, which is the Facebook lead ad submitted, and the condition, so has submitted Facebook lead ad. And we'll demonstrate both of these shapes this morning. So if you're not familiar with Facebook lead ads, Facebook has a really great way of allowing you to create ads with calls to action and then capture the person's information directly on Facebook. So you don't have to direct them to a landing page, where they might bounce away, or, for whatever reason, they lose interest or they get distracted by another browser tab. So they can fill in some forms, key fields in Facebook and submit it. So you can modify the forms and do all sorts of things, but it's incredibly important that you can follow these ads up in a really timely way. So we all know that you're more likely to close a sale. So in this Harvard Business Review article, 22% more likely to close a sale if you respond to a new lead within the first 5 minutes. So let's jump in and take a look at Facebook lead ads. While I'm getting into the demo, Elle, I'd be interested to hear from you just some of the ways our customers are using Facebook lead ads already.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you really hit on a key point there, Mike. So one of the biggest things that I'm excited about is that integrating Facebook lead ads with Autopilot really helps you to be able to respond incredibly quickly to anybody that comes through, shows an interest in that lead ad on Facebook, and then be able to respond to them in a meaningful and a quick way. So a couple of my favorite journeys or things that people have been doing with Facebook lead ads. So really coming through into Autopilot, I think that there's 2 ways that people primarily follow up. One is a follow-up with the person that's just submitted the Facebook lead ad, and typically that's a follow-up via email. I think email is a nice way because we know that we're capturing that as a data point. So you can just have a Facebook lead ads trigger connecting to an automated email based on the type of lead ad that somebody is submitting. I think the other thing that's really critical is also letting your team know that somebody has submitted a Facebook lead ad, so that if you have a sales team or maybe your marketing team wants to follow up with them, again, they can do that in a timely manner. So a lot of the customers that I'm working with, I recommend that they add a notification action off the back of somebody submitting a form, whether that be an email notification or a Slack notification. So that's just some of the ways I've seen people using it, but I think that kind of timely engagement off the back of someone submitting a lead ad is so critical.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So let's take a look at how to set that sequence up and some of those examples that you just said. So if you're not familiar with the Facebook interface, I'll just quickly show you how the lead ad works. And I apologize for people that are super familiar with this and power users and are thinking, why the hell do I need to see this? But I will show you very briefly, and then I'll move on to the more exciting stuff. So in Facebook, you can follow the wizard to set up an ad. We've got to save the giraffes, George the giraffe, our mascot, Facebook account here. So we'll just choose a typical single image ad here. We've got a nice giraffe image that's already been planted in. It's really this call to action here that can do a number of things. It can link to your website, it can link to a landing page, but it can also link to a Facebook lead form. So you'll see here, I've got 2 lead forms. I've got save the giraffe, subscribe form, and then I've got this longer form. But for the sake of just showing you how it works, we'll create a new form. You can put a demo in like subscribe to save the animals. And so then you can put like a little paragraph below that explaining sort of what it does. You can also go in and customize the forms. So I could say like if I wanted separate first name, last name, phone number, for example, I can do that. And you'll see it building out the form in Facebook. Below that, you do need to link to a privacy policy. So I'll just go to Autopilot quickly and get our privacy policy. Facebook does require that just to say how you'll be using the information, which is really important. And you'll obviously need to put your own privacy policy in here. So I'll put that in here. And then on the thank you screen, you can tell it after they've filled in the form sort of what it says and then where it goes. So here you could put in like, go to the Save Animals page or whatever. And you've just got to put a link in there to demonstrate it. So I'll just put in Google for now. Oops, my intro. I'll just put some text in there. So you finish up there and you'll see I now have a new form, which I didn't name very nicely, but untitled form. And that's the form that we just created. So the question is like, then how do we actually get this once that ad's operating and generating leads? How do we get it to Autopilot, and how do we react to it? And so what most people do right now is they have the lead form gets filled in, they get notified, and then they can download a CSV, and then they've got to follow up. But we saw that statistic earlier where 22% of people, the faster you respond to a lead ultimately means the higher the chance of actually converting it into a customer or at least a qualified lead. So we can now take the Facebook lead ad submitted shape. If you haven't already connected this, you just need to authenticate it with your Facebook account that you use to manage your ads. So we'll say set up a new lead ad, and then in here we'll see that untitled form, the one I poorly named, and we'll see the fields come in. Yeah, the naming conventions could be a lot better. Email, first name, last name, phone, and Autopilot will automatically map in the fields that it recognizes into the database. So it's saying all those forms that came through from that ad, these forms here, are now going to go into these fields. So we'll click done. And now every time someone fills in that form on my ad, I can do whatever I want. I can now use all of my actions to truly take action. Now we were actually collecting phone number there, so we can do something pretty unique here. We can actually immediately SMS them, and we can choose which number it comes from here. So I'll pick hi first name, because we know their name now, because remember we mapped it into the database. So I can say hi first name, thanks for wanting to save the animals. Someone from our team will be in touch soon. So that's a simple notification that you can send to them via SMS. We can also send them an email immediately after they get the ad. And there's so many different use cases for this. In Facebook, you can have them like subscribe to a newsletter, for example, or give you feedback. And you can ultimately now just change the customer journey based on that starting point of the Facebook lead ad. So for example, if it was a newsletter subscribe, I could go and add them to a list and I could call that list like subscribers. So I know that they're now a subscriber, and I can ultimately shoot them an email as well. For those more like say important leads or sales leads, if you are using something like Salesforce, you can actually go after the ad and assign the lead. I don't have Salesforce set up, but you can go and assign the lead directly to a sales rep, send an email sort of following that ad up, and also, like Elle said earlier, send a notification email to the team letting you know that you have a new lead ad. And if you use something like Slack, you can also send an announcement on Slack as well. So you can see the power of Facebook lead ads and bringing that into Autopilot.
And Mike, if you're connecting to Salesforce, I was going to say you could assign a task to that lead owner that you've just added them to. Yeah, to remind them
to follow up. So, yeah. Is there anything else, Elle, I've missed here that you see customers doing that you think is important for everyone to know?
I think this covers the main shapes that I typically see customers using. I think the only thing we haven't touched on is that the lead ad submissions are a really nice way to add sort of different data points to your contacts. So one thing I've seen a couple of customers doing is updating a field off the back of a specific lead ad being submitted to say that, hey, we know this person is interested in X, Y, or Z content. And then they actually use that in a smart segment to trigger them into a longer nurture journey based off of that content that we know they're interested in. So there's so many different things that you could do, but I think the only shape we haven't got on the canvas there is just an update field.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's a really good point. Is because you know the lead form they submitted and the ad that they actually came through, you can really target that content to what it was that they were sort of ultimately submitting the form for. So if they're requesting a demo, you can send them an email with a Calendly link saying, hey, book the demo now. So the whole idea really here is like, if you're getting these ads into a CSV file and you're not following them up immediately, people lose interest or they forget or they get busy or, you lose all context. So if you have this sort of really contextual experience after someone submits the ad that is super personalized, you're going to get a much better result out of these ads. So we probably should move on because we do have the 3 shapes in 30 minutes.
We should. Actually, Mike, before you move on, just a couple of questions we've had. I think the first question we've had through is, can you connect multiple Facebook lead ad accounts to Autopilot? A quick answer to that one is that at the moment we can just support the one. So do make sure that you are connecting the appropriate Facebook lead ad account to Autopilot. Another question we've had come through is it possible to use Facebook Messenger instead of an SMS? At the moment, it is not, but now that we have that initial integration with Facebook, we're definitely looking at other ways we can capitalize on that. So stay tuned, potentially next year, but currently, no, it is just that SMS functionality.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the questions, everyone. Please keep them coming. Yeah, Facebook Messenger is obviously something that's pretty exciting and that we're definitely taking a look at, hint, hint. So all right, cool, let's move on. So back over to the important slides. So let's take a look at the Facebook custom audiences integration. So this is under the Facebook banner still. And so we have 2 new shapes here. We have very simple shapes, really, add to audience and remove from audience, and they're both actions. So let's just do a quick overview of what custom audiences are for those people who are unfamiliar. So imagine that you have a contact list. Now, this doesn't have to be a contact list in Autopilot. It could be a CSV file of contacts that you have on your desktop even. Facebook allows you to upload that list into Facebook. And what they'll do is they'll sort of anonymize that data so it's not personally identifiable, and they'll match it to people on Facebook. So actually the real people's profiles on Facebook. And so you can see here in our little demonstration from this contact list, in theory, it's matched a bunch of people. And then we're able to show them an ad based on that custom audiences that matches the profiles, the specific profiles that we're targeting. The other thing to know is that there's another thing called Facebook lookalike audiences, and I'll talk through why these are so powerful. So imagine that you have this first list back here, and these are great leads for you. You're like, I want to target these people and get them to convert and buy, but you need more of them. So you've got like 30 of them, and you're like, I need 100 leads instead. So what you can do is do what they call lookalike, and lookalike takes that initial group of people that were matched, and it finds similar people, and it works incredibly well. And so you can then show people those same ads. So in the final step, showing people ads that are similar and try and get them to convert as well. So let's take a look at how you utilize Facebook custom audiences in Autopilot. So Elle, just on that, as we get started here, I might get you to talk through some of the examples that we see people doing with Facebook custom audiences.
Yeah, of course. I mean, for me, it's exciting because custom audiences is really just an easy way in which you can show a compelling offer to people that are going to be really interested in it. And so connecting Autopilot to Facebook allows us to use smart segment functionality in order to define a group of people that you really want to show a very targeted message to. So a couple of different ways I've seen people using that. I think one that I've seen multiple times is customers using custom Facebook audiences during a free trial. So when somebody signs up to do a free trial or shows initial interest in your product or in your brand, you can add them to a custom audience in Autopilot that would push them a very compelling message on Facebook that is around your free trial or how they can convert into a paying customer. The great thing about this is that you can then also see in Autopilot when somebody converts and remove them from that custom audience so they no longer see that messaging anymore because they have actually achieved that conversion point.
Yeah, I think the best way to think about it too is if you like, I'm sure everyone's had this experience, right? You go to a store, especially around the holiday time, or like, you know, even with Black Friday and things like that just gone, and you go, you browse a bunch of like shoes on the web, and then for the next like month you see ads for shoes, for pairs of shoes that you've already bought, and
yes,
and so these companies, or in this case you as a marketer, are really paying for these ads that that, you know,
yeah, you don't even know if the end person has bought them or not. So I definitely agree, that drives me nuts.
Yeah, so the way of solving that is, imagine today's event. If you think about today's webinar, right? So I'm going to sort of take, in this case, the Typeform trigger, and we'll be covering this a little bit later on. But we got everyone to fill in a form for the event. So like an event registration form, in this case from Typeform. And so imagine that at this point we've been advertising to people to get them to register for this event. Instead of talking about the audiences specifically to begin with, we can go ahead and remove them from the audience that we were targeting for the event registration. So we can go in here and just like remove them from that event, which is a really cool use case. But let's start off with something more important. So imagine that someone does sign up to your applications for like a free trial, or they request a demo, or they even buy something from your store, right? So instead of using ads just to acquire new customers, with custom audiences, you can get hyper-personal and hyper-targeted. So you can say, let's go and add a bunch of people to an audience that we want to target. So we'll go in here and we can pick from some of our existing audiences, like fans of giraffes, hot leads. I've got a few.
I like the fans of giraffes.
Yeah, that was my handiwork earlier. So you can hit here, add a new custom audience, and it gives you a dialog. So you can just add the audience directly from Autopilot, which is super cool. So you can say in here, like onboarding, because now they've filled in the free trial form. So we don't want to ask them to do a free trial. We want to teach them about how to use the product. So we'll put like teaches people how to use product. Then we select the ad account. So it's George the Giraffe is our ad account, and we'll hit create custom audience. So that's all we had to do. Now we can continue on with the rest of our journey, like sending an email, an SMS, doing whatever else we need to do. But let's go and look at what that then looks like in Facebook. So we'll go back to the George the Giraffe profile, hit ads and create. And now we need to really create an onboarding ad. So we'll go down here because we want to have a call to action to lead gen again. And you'll see in this first step that I skipped over earlier, you have a custom audience field. So you can go in here and you'll see the cool thing is it immediately appears. Like, I mean, that was incredibly quick. So it says teaches people how to use products. So we'll select the onboarding audience. And this audience will be what we choose from. Now, obviously no one's in the audience yet, so this isn't going to work. So Facebook has a minimum of 20 people need to be in this audience before the ads will start showing. So you'd need 20 people to fill in this form before it would start showing up. So this is incredibly powerful because you can also use it for lookalike audiences as well. So for example, let's look at a use case involving a CRM. So if we take a Salesforce shape, for example, and we change the lead status to qualified. So a sales rep says, hey, this lead's really qualified, or they're working it, or they've put it into their pipeline. We as marketers can credibly now say that that's a good lead. That's a lead that we should have more of. So we can immediately add them to an audience, and we can be very specific with that audience. Get more leads like this. And what that will allow us to do is then do a lookalike on this audience. So every time someone's qualified or, or is in pipeline in Salesforce, we'll go and fetch more leads like this. Now you can do that for all sorts of things. You can do it after someone's on your website live chatting to you and someone tags it as a hot lead. You can do it when someone fills in a demo request form on your website to try and go and get more people to do a demo of your product. So it's an incredibly powerful capability, being able to add and remove and really control the customer journey of how they see ads through the life cycle. So Elle, I know you've seen a number of people sort of using this. What have I missed?
I think you've covered most of it, Mike. I would say the only other way I've seen it be used really effectively are for B2C companies that have presence in a lot of different locations. And so for them, it's really nice to be able to segment in Autopilot based off of a person's location and then show them a very targeted ad on Facebook that's relevant to the showroom or to the branch that's in their specific location. So it's just using all of those additional data points that Autopilot has to be able to define that group of people and then send them that very targeted offer.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And just to show people the ability to really create a smart segment, go in and say, look at city and say where I am today, Sydney. We've got 23 people in my sort of fake database here. And so I could say I want to target people and put them into a completely localized audience. The other thing is you can actually use the A/B split as well, which is pretty cool. To send people to two different audiences to compare how those sort of ad campaigns perform as well, which is really nice. So is there any questions that anyone has on the Facebook custom audiences shape? We're happy to answer them. Elle, have we got any that are immediately coming to mind?
We have, I think we've answered most of them. There was just one outstanding, which is probably a nice way to end Facebook as a section. But the question is, if you have multiple journey paths, is it possible to know during a journey which customers have engaged with a certain form on Facebook? So for example, if I want to see whether or not they like horses, can I check to see if they've engaged with a specific lead ad before I send them down a certain path? And the answer to that is yes, absolutely. And it's the one shape we haven't touched on directly today, which is the has submitted lead ad. So if at any point during a journey you want to check and see if someone has engaged with a specific lead ad before you send them a follow-up piece of content, then you can use that condition check that Mike showed on the very first slide, which is the has submitted Facebook lead ad.
Yeah, that's a great question. I did miss that, I must admit. So that is the has submitted lead shape there, and you can see I'm just sending emails, but you could do it with obviously anything, or you don't even have to have a path on one as well. So you could just have, if they have submitted, keep going or not.
Yeah, and also don't forget, guys, that that is available in the smart segment criteria too. So if you wanted to add that in as a specific part of your criteria, you could do that in a smart segment.
Yeah, so I'll quickly show that. So you can go in here, and one of the criteria you'll see is lead ad submission. So you can say has submitted, like show me all the people that have submitted this. No one has, so you're going to get no results. But it's a great way of excluding or including based on that submission. So what I am going to do, I was going to demo it live, but I was worried about the privacy implications. I just thought it through in my head. So what I'm going to do is everyone that's actually attending today's webinar or registered for it, so you might actually be watching this recording later, I'm going to spend $100, and I'm going to target ads to you using the audience, this ad audience, with Elle and my face, thanking you for coming to our webinar today. So look out for those ads on Facebook. You're going to be hyper targeted there using our new Facebook custom audiences integration. It's going to probably freak people out.
I know. I haven't seen the photo that you're using of me, Mike. So.
Well, I don't know which one yet. I'm going to find a good one. That's my aim.
All right. Good luck.
Cool. So keep the questions coming. We definitely want to make this a helpful session for you guys. So please send them through. So we're going to move on to Typeform. Typeform, for those that don't know, is I think arguably the most beautiful way to create forms in the universe. If you haven't used Typeform, you should give it a whirl. We were so impressed with the sort of the way that it's like a personalized experience when you fill in a form. It feels like someone's sort of quizzing you or talking to you, and I love the interaction. So I'm going to quickly show Typeform today and how it all works. So we decided to build these shapes with Typeform, and we have two of them. So they work very similar to the form submitted shape, if you're familiar with them in Autopilot. So it allows you to basically start a journey when someone submits a form, and then also question if they have or have not submitted the form. If you've got a call to action and you want them to submit a form, like for today's webinar, like if you haven't submitted the form, we can keep reminding you to register for the webinar. So let's just jump in and directly look at Typeform. So I've already got a Typeform account set up. This is the account we actually use for today's webinar. So you can see that 474 of you registered for today's webinar through that particular form, which is really cool. And so we can go in here and either select start from scratch or use a template. I'm going to show you just some of the great templates that you can use to create a form. So we have in here like registration form, which is loading, market research, customer satisfaction. So this is a great way of sending a really personalized customer satisfaction survey to your audience. So let me just show you one of these. So like this is a customer satisfaction one. So take the survey. There's a little question. So you can even hit enter, which is really cool. And then it's like, which one of our products have you recently purchased? We'll say smart shower. Then it comes over here. What was the main factor for purchasing? Features. So you get the idea, right? And I'm sure you filled in the form to come to today's webinar and you saw this in action as well. So what's great about Typeform is it has this really interactive and engaging experience. It's a little bit more unique than a typical, say, directing someone to a landing page, because it's sort of quizzy and interactive, and you tend to see you get much higher completion rates because of the way the form is so beautiful and interactive and really well designed. So Elle, we have a number of cool use cases around this. I think the one that we mentioned when we launched Typeform was seed sheets.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell people about some of the cool ways people are using Typeform?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Typeform I love because it has the ability to push dynamic questions. So depending on how you answer question A, we might show you a different question for B and C, which is, I know, something you just demoed, Mike. But really, the customers that I see using Typeform effectively are using that capability. And so what it allows them to do is just get additional data points on their audience, and then make sure that the content they're sending them in future is relevant. So, you know, you could ask them, for example, we have a customer called Beer and Brewing Magazine, and so they like to ask people, you know, what is your favorite type of beer, or what type of events are you interested in hearing more about? And then they personalize their newsletters based on the answers that people are giving, and based on whether somebody has specified that they're a novice brewer or an advanced brewer. So to me, that's one of the reasons why I love Typeform, because you can ask all of those questions, get responses, and then dynamically populate the following question, pull all of that information in Autopilot, and then use that additional data to make sure your messaging is really, really relevant to your end users.
Yeah, definitely. I think the other really exciting thing for me is like, before this integration, you know, when someone submitted these type forms, and a number of our customers were actually sort of doing this, that like export the CSV, import it into Autopilot, and then they'd have to sort of map the fields in and then create the journey. And so it didn't have that real-time flow or effectiveness. So it was a little bit harder to utilize than some of the other things that we've seen before. So I wanted to actually just show you today our webinar form, which is the form that you filled in. So we've got, what's your first name? And then we've got thanks. And then we're referring to the previous answer. That's how it says, like, thanks, Mike. And what is your last name? And so on and so forth. So this is more of like a question view. And then we can like view the actual type form, which everyone would have filled in here. Now, I know a number of you filled in a form to say, can you use hidden fields to get the form rather a lot more personalized? And the answer is you can. So you can switch on hidden fields here, and you can create a variable that you can pass through. So you could have like, you could pass through like their name or email. So if you're linking from an Autopilot journey and you obviously already know their email or name, you can actually pass that into the form. So you don't need to ask that again, which is really cool when they fill in the form. So there's a number of things like that that you can do, passing in hidden fields like a UTM parameter if they hit that form and pass it through to Autopilot. So that's just quickly showing hidden fields, because someone did ask about that previously. So let's take a look at the actual type form that we had set up. And we've been using Typeform a fair bit. So here's the original ambitious title of our webinar: 5 new integrations in 50 minutes. We're struggling to get through 3 here. And so, yeah, five new integrations in 50 minutes. So let's take a look at how this actual form was mapped. This is the real thing. So we've mapped in the fields. So you can see first name, last name, email, company, marketing contacts, and then tools. And so tools is kind of the interesting one to me, right? Because in that form, if you recall, one of our questions is which of these tools are you using today? And see how we've got Facebook, Typeform, and Twilio here, and you kind of went in and picked them. So we start off with that trigger, and then what we can do is we can actually key in off that field. So I think if I remember correctly, it was called tools. And then we can say if it equals Twilio, we might send them information about Twilio. And so it allows you to create hyper-personalized follow-ups based on those answers and tiles that you're selecting in the form. And we talked earlier about the condition. So imagine now that you take a list trigger and you send an email to a list saying, hey, come along to our webinar like we did. Then you can go and check if they, after you've sent it, if they have or haven't submitted that Typeform after a few days. Sorry, I shouldn't do it instantly. And so you can say like 2 days later here, if they haven't submitted the Typeform, which is this one, so we'll say has not, you can go and send them an email reminder as well. So that's just sort of two of the ways to use Typeform with Autopilot. It's an incredibly simple integration, but it's super powerful. And it's pretty cool in the fact that you can start seeing how these integrations can work together, all the new things that we're showing you today. So for example, after someone submits a lead ad, you could send them an email, asking them to fill in another form and so on and so forth. So they can all connect together, allow you to control the customer journey, utilizing these best of breed ad networks and tools, but really automating the customer experience along the way. So Elle, the ultimate question, what have I missed? What else do people need to know?
I think you've pretty much covered it, Mike. We did have a couple of questions come through though, so I might reference those. The first question is, in the case of a Typeform quiz, would it be possible to create a list based on results of a quiz and not just the answers to specific questions? I'll have to admit, I've actually not used Typeform to create a quiz in the past, but I imagine it would be totally doable in Autopilot through the use of smart segments. So you would be mapping those quiz fields into custom fields in Autopilot, and then you would be able to build a smart segment that says, I want to see somebody that's answered A to question 1 and B to question 2 to get kind of a holistic answer to that entire quiz rather than just one specific question.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a good point. You could do a few things as well. Like there's some incredibly cool ways you could use it. So like, remember we showed this example, like tools, right? So we could say if it contains Twilio, and then we can say if contact field tools, actually this is working, it's pretty cool. So also contains like Typeform. These are the people now that want to see about Twilio and Typeforms. So you could imagine now doing that with different answers in different fields to actually segment the audience based on how they responded to a quiz. Now, I'm not going to pull this up because I don't want to reveal people's tool preferences publicly. I've got the privacy policy open, so I don't want to do that. But you get the idea, right? Now, there's another really cool example with this. So imagine that you get certain answers and certain combinations of answers. You could actually create a quiz score as well. And so as people, check certain fields or either, create a smart segment to validate a few, but we could say here, like if the tools contains Twilio, go ahead and change the score. And I don't only just pick product score here, increased by like 10. So you could actually score the quiz in here to like have a pass fail, for example. And then when the score gets above 100, you could then like send them a congratulations or something like that. So basically the canvas is pretty powerful in summary, and you can do a lot of these things. It just takes a bit of trial and error. You will notice though, we've started to roll out, which is something that we're slowly rolling out over time, live chat in the product as well. So if you ever have an idea like this and you get stuck and you're like, what should I do? You can hit this live chat button at any time, and someone will be there to talk to you and help you with the journey that you're trying to create, which is super cool. And we're trying to get this up and running almost 24 hours a day. So you'll never be alone when you're creating journeys in Autopilot. Awesome. So shall we move on, or is there any questions that are outstanding?
I think in the interest of timing, Mike, we should probably move on to to the next topic, which I believe is Twilio.
Excellent. All right.
Yeah.
So for those customers that have been Autopilot customers for quite a while, you'll know that a couple of years ago when we launched Autopilot, we had a really great Twilio integration that allowed you to send an SMS as easy as sending an email with personalized variables in it, and the usage was incredible. We have literally sent millions of SMS to customers or people on behalf of customers all around the world. So we took your ideas, we listened to the feedback we got on how to build an even better Twilio integration. So we came up with an integration we like to call conversational SMS, because it allows you to essentially have conversations with customers, ask them questions, get answers from them, and quite honestly, program SMS to do almost anything, including building your own little SMS bot. I've even experimented by building a little like RPG game where my friends can text play to the number, and they can, you can do all sorts of cool options with it.
You're not alone in that, Mike. I've seen a lot of people creating games with our SMS functionality.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Okay, I'm not alone. I thought I was the lone freak that was creating the SMS game. So you can do some incredibly powerful things. I honestly think the most exciting use cases that I've seen is really getting or trying to get leads from people in the physical world. So if you think about, like, if you do like bus ads or a billboard or a magazine ad, or you have a trade show, traditionally it's really hard because you've got to get people to like go to a website. It's really hard to do attribution because you're like, I don't know where these people came from. But with the SMS, you can put a number, and if you're in the US, you can actually do a short code. So you could have like text hello to Autopilot. And when we receive or hear that keyword Autopilot in this case, you can start a journey, and then you can start asking people questions. And so that's what we're going to demonstrate today, how you can do that. And this is just an example we did for a blog post I wrote about not-for-profits, how they could use this functionality. So in this example, it's like help us stop animal abuse, text donate to save a pup, which would kick off a journey. That, Mike. I would too. It's horrible, actually. I look at that image and feel horrible. I don't know what I was thinking, but it gets this reaction I wanted. So let me demonstrate how this works. And then, Elle, I know there's so many exciting use cases we can talk about for this. So I'll quickly do a run through and a live demo. And I'm going to let you guys actually text me. Don't do it yet because I haven't built the journey. So let's have a look at how it works. So I'll just call this journey like SMS reply. So we have a bunch of shapes that are new, and they look the same, but they're a little bit more powerful now. So we have SMS received. So I'm going to pick a US number and be a little bit biased here. But if you're not in the US and you want to try this demo, you still can. You just need to put +1 in front of this number. So +1 and then 415-766-2948. So we'll have text webinar to 415-766-2948. I sound like a radio ad guy now.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, the other thing you can do is actually you can put custom variables in here, which is really cool. So they're totally variable. So you could have a unique coupon code on the back of your product, for example, like if you had
so this is what CT does, Mike. Yeah, so CT, that customer you referenced before, they're actually not allowed to put URLs on any of their packaging. And so what they do instead is they put a unique coupon code on their packaging and then get their customers to text a number that they've set up in Autopilot, so that when they text their coupon code to that number, then within Autopilot, they can be sent an automated email. And also the sales team is notified that there's somebody out there that wants to talk to them.
Yeah, it's an absolutely cool example because it's taking all these interactions people have with your brand or product or when they see advertisements and allowing them to connect with you in ways that you just couldn't before, or at least couldn't without hiring expensive developers to go and like build this for you. So the only thing I'd say about this, and it sort of gets a few people when they're setting it up, is if you're going to try this after the webinar, just make sure you view the setup instructions. You do need to have a Twilio account for this to work. And in the Twilio account, you need to add a line of like a URL, which allows us to intercept your reply. So just make sure when you set this up, you follow those instructions carefully, because some people do get tripped up on this. So once it is set up, text webinar, we'll say, and you've got to keep the number chain together. So we'll keep using that 415 number. So we'll say, hello there. So we can get to know you. What is your first name? And then the cool thing is we can now save responses into a field. So whatever you reply back with, I'm going to save into a field, and I'm going to save it into first name.
And actually, Mike, whilst you're setting that up, just a quick reminder for everyone that's on the line, this journey isn't live yet, so hold off on SMSing that number until we publish it.
Oh yeah, good call, Elle.
Yeah.
Because that will really not be good. You will get no response. And so the next step is basically if they've replied. So if you reply, so I'm going to say on reply any, but I have a bunch of different outcomes here. So on reply any. And then I now know your name, which is cool, unless you try and troll me and put something in silly. So I can say, hi, first name, thanks for attending our webinar today. Now, so I can send you a free gift. What is your email? And then I can also say this next reply into the email field. Now, I do want to add here that I don't recommend doing this exact example. In the interest of time, I'm just going to do this example right now. But what you'd be better to do is save this reply into a temporary field called like SMS email in case they put in something that's not so correct. And what you can do then is create a smart segment and look for if the email address contains like an @ or a dot, and so then you know it's a legit email. And if it is, you can then go and update the email field just so you don't get a bunch of garbage data in. We do have a guide that shows you how to do that in the guidebook, so you can just go in and find that in here and cheat. So you don't, like rather than trying to figure out what I just said really quickly, it is in there for you. So we're just going to assume in this case that you send a legitimate email back. And if you do, we're going to say, so we're going to say on reply any, we'll say thanks again. So thanks, say like Mike, I'm sending you an email now. And then I'm just going to probably pick this email. So my animal welfare email, I'll quickly show everyone that email. So here's the email. And so I'm just in this case going to say, after we send this, just go ahead and send the email. So I don't need a reply from you for that last SMS. So let's go ahead and publish this. And then while you're all trying this, I'll show you the other example, which is actually allowing them to reply with words. So if you do want to try this out, you don't have to, but if you do, it's a lot of fun. So you can now text, that says text hi, but I changed it so it's webinar. So let me edit this along. So now it's correct. So text webinar to 415-766-2948, and you'll get to see that actually working, which is really cool. So while we wait on some replies, we will show you one more example with SMS. So imagine you already have a known list of people, or you just simply have text, info to this number. What you can then do is say thanks. If you want more information about dogs, reply dogs. If you want more information about cats, reply cats. And so this is an example where you can change the journey based on them giving you keywords. And I'm sure you've all got these SMSs in real life before. It's like reply yes, no to confirm an appointment. And that's how some of our customers are actually using this. And so then you can say, you can create the reply outcome. So you can say dogs is a reply option and cat. And then what it'll do is, it's really cool. It'll create on the fan custom, so dogs, cats. So now we could say, we'll send different emails based on what information they want. So dogs, cats. And then we can do a follow-up if they don't reply to sort of any of those words. So we can say no match, and then it'll say, hey, you didn't reply, reply again. So that's just another way you can do that. And you can keep asking a series of questions. I mentioned that silly game example before, but it does actually have some practical uses. So if they replied dogs, you could change a lead score, a particular score here, and increment it up. So let's quickly take a look and see if some of you played along. So it looks like a bunch of you did. And you can see all of those coming in through my feed. So thank you, Alex.
That looks great.
And, Tanya, Elliot, a whole bunch of you have, and it's still coming in, which is awesome. So I'll quickly browse through it so no one sees your emails. Cool. So so you've now seen that in action. Elle, tell me how our wonderful customers are using this, because they're doing some really cool things.
Yeah, so one of my absolute favorite stories is a customer we just worked with in Australia called the Equality Campaign. For those of you who aren't aware, Australia just went through a massive vote around marriage equality and same-sex marriage, and we worked with one of the biggest campaigners over in Australia. And what they were asking people to do is to tell them where their closest post box was, so that we could send them an SMS reminder on the day to let them know that today is the day to vote. So we actually captured all of that information via a form, added it to the contacts profiles, and then through the use of smart segments, we were able to dynamically create a list of everybody whose postal date was today. And then we sent them an SMS saying, hey, just to let you know, this is where your closest post box is. And then we actually asked them to respond yes or no if they had posted their vote. If they had posted their vote, we followed up off the back of the yes outcome to say, great, we're so excited, thank you for joining the cause. If they responded no, we then said, no problem, here is some additional information, and here is a link to a form that you can go to re-register for another postal date. So it was incredibly powerful. We sent thousands of SMS through Autopilot and really ensured we were able to engage with people on the day to keep them updated on the cause. And I think 2 weeks ago, Australia passed a law for marriage equality and same-sex marriage. So it just goes to show the power of communication and how a simple SMS and that automated reply back can really make a difference in that engagement piece.
Yeah, it was certainly an awesome campaign for our company to be involved with. So we did actually, if you're interested, produce a short video on the campaign and kind of what it was all about. So you can view that on our blog if you're interested. So thanks to everyone who tried the SMS example. Hopefully you enjoyed the animal welfare email I sent you. Cool. So do we have any final questions? I know that we're kind of running out of time here. So is there any final questions that we can answer for everyone out there, or Elle, is there anything else come through?
So the main questions that have come through are around whether or not we've been recording this session. So for everyone that's on the line, a big yes and thumbs up. We are recording, and we will send all of the attendees a copy of that, as well as make it available on our blog in a few days' time. So don't worry if you miss the beginning or the end, we'll be able to send you a complete follow-up. And then there's just a couple of other general questions around, is there a blog or tutorial for people that are new to Autopilot and new to these integrations? And again, the answer to that is yes, absolutely. I recommend heading on over to our blog. Our marketing team has done some fantastic articles around these new shapes. And within those articles, you can find links to more detailed support documentation as well. So that'd be where I would head. But again, we'll be sending you a follow-up information with a lot of these resources linked. So have a look out for that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And as I said earlier, you can also, if you get stuck implementing any of these, use that live chat button in the product. And we are working on a series of how-to videos next year, which is going to cover like all of these integrations in depth. We've been releasing them so fast, quite honestly, we're actually struggling ourselves to keep up pumping out the content related to them. But the blog is the best resource to go to. And I'm sure if many of you are existing Autopilot users, you've probably seen there's a number of other new shapes that we haven't covered today in the product as well. And we'll be covering those in due course. So that's it for today. You've seen Facebook custom audiences, Facebook lead ads. Both articles are on the blog that cover how to use those and some use case examples as well. You've seen Typeform, how you can create beautiful forms and follow them up in personal and contextual ways. And you've seen the power of conversational SMS with that new Twilio integration as well, and how you can chat to customers with SMS, collect new leads, and really take SMS marketing to an entirely new level in your business. So there's one more thing I have for you today. So what's next? What are we doing next? I'm not going to call out some of the things that you might see on there, but so we have this beautiful new product coming called the Shape Store, and I'm so excited about the Shape Store. I've been wanting to release this for such an incredibly long time, and it's going to be our home online for all of the shapes and integrations for Autopilot. And hopefully, if you can catch some of the categories on the store, you're going to see that we're really going all in with shapes and integrations and helping you organize your customer information by connecting to all of the applications that you're using right across the customer journey and your business to interact with your customers. So I'm super excited about this. We have so much in store for you in 2018. It's going to be an incredibly exciting year. If you have suggestions on what we should build next, please share them. If you go to support.autopilothq.com, there's a link up the top called Feedback Forum. You can go and vote in there on your favorite shapes that you'd like to be built. We are listening to you. It's the reason we did Typeform. It's the reason we did Facebook. It's the reason we upgraded Twilio. So a big thanks from me today. Elle, thanks for being a wonderful co-host. I hope we've answered all of your questions. If you do want to follow up with me personally, my email is just mike@autopilothq.com. If you have any questions about the content today, you can email support@autopilothq.com. Elle, thank you very much for coming along for the journey this morning. Any final thoughts?
No, just to say we've had a ton of comments come through about the Shape Store in capital letters. A lot of people are excited. So like you, I'm incredibly excited to see where we go next year with all of our new releases and integrations. And I think we're going to struggle with doing 5 integrations in 50 minutes, Mike, but we will definitely try.
Cool.
So yeah, thank you so much, everyone. And thank you for staying an extra 15 minutes as well. I know we went a bit over time.
Yeah, whoops. Excellent. Thanks so much to everyone. We're going to be doing a lot more of these events. You're going to hear a lot more from us in the next few months. So please come back to our webinars. Elle and I are going to keep doing these and talk about all the fantastic shapes and integrations yet to come. And please tell us what you want. We're listening, we're going to build them, and we're going to create remarkable marketing together. Thanks everyone for attending today. We'll see you next time.